Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'll be talking about Metamorphoses by Ovid. Yay! No! Whenever I think about how evil Greek and Roman gods are, what they did to the poor mortals, I just can't control myself. I love Greek mythology. I hate these gods. For those of you who haven't watched my previous videos, I will just give you a quick recap of what I talked about in the previous video regarding metamorphosis. We saw how our great god Apollo rapes women whom he finds pretty. He doesn't ask for their consent. If they try to run away, he simply grabs them and forces himself upon them. And we see how his wife Juno, also known as Hera, is a jealous wife. She goes and punishes those victims whom she should have sided with. And we also see how Apollo's son Mercury is also like him. And we see how Callisto is raped by Apollo, how Daphne, to save herself from Apollo's advances, wishes to be saved, and she is transformed into a tree. And I talked about these things in the previous video. In today's video, I'll be talking about book 3 and book 4, and the things that the great things that gods do in these two books. We left off where Europa was raped by Apollo, and we see that Europa cannot be found anywhere. So her father tells Cadmus, Europa's brother, to go and search for her and to not to return until he finds her. He cannot find her. He is tired. He keeps searching for her, and he cannot find a place that he can call home now because he has already been thrown away by his father. So, who turns out to be a savior in the situation? I know you all know who. The great Apollo, obviously. He just, uh, his voice tells Cadmus, guides Cadmus to go to a certain place, and there he would find a place that he could call home. So he goes there. There's this serpent whom he kills, and out of its teeth, some men are born, some people are born, and with along with those people, he builds his new kingdom. And his misery doesn't end here. Uh, yeah, I will read it out to you. Ovid has written, "Call no man happy until he is dead, and his body is laid to rest in the grave." Obviously, you cannot call a man or a woman happy if the eyes of the vengeful gods is upon you. The goddess of hypocrisy. Yes, she is a hypocrite. She is the person who chased Callisto out in book 2, and she is washing herself in a place where men aren't allowed. And we see that Actaeon, Cadmus' grandson, accidentally reaches that place. He isn't doing that willingly. Unlike Apollo and other male gods, he isn't doing that willingly. He accidentally goes there, and Diana is furious. So she turns him into a stag, and Actaeon is in pain. He can feel his human emotions still being in the body of a stag, and he finds his hunting dogs, and those dogs don't know that Actaeon is their master, so they attack him, tear him to pieces, and kill him. That's the end of Actaeon. And it's said that Diana's anger only subsided when Actaeon was torn into pieces. I get that you are the goddess of chastity, and you were just probably trying to protect yourself for a man who meant no harm. Why did you not do the same thing for Callisto? She was under your wing. She was a victim. She should have been saved. In the later part of the novel, we see Juno's jealousy at peak. I will read this out to you. This is Juno's speech. Juno is the wife of Apollo. What has my scolding ever achieved? I must target the woman herself and destroy her if I am to merit the title of mighty Juno. So, to prove that you are Apollo's wife, you are going to hurt someone again who is a victim. Why? Just because you are a jealous wife and you cannot differentiate between what is right and what is wrong? Greek gods need to be stopped. We see the story of Narcissus and Echo as well. So where does this echoing sound comes from? It's quite tragic. So Echo was trying to save a maiden who was raped by Apollo. She wasn't trying to save her from Apollo. She was trying to save her from the wrath of Juno. Because you all know what Juno does to innocent victims. So Juno is enraged because of that, and she curses Echo, and after being cursed, her own voice is snatched away. She cannot speak anything, and if she hears someone, then she can only repeat the last words of that person's speech. And we see that how just Echo's end is so painful. She has a body, but she doesn't have a voice, and then she falls in love with Narcissus. And when her love is rejected because she cannot communicate properly, she her body just fades away because of agony and pain, and all that's left is an echoing sound. It's so painful and appalling to see how Greek gods take their revenge. We see that there's this ruler, Pentheus, and he is warned by Tiresias of Bacchus. Bacchus is a god, and he is warned that if he doesn't pay respect to him, he will be destroyed. And Bacchus does destroy him, and everyone is singing praises of Bacchus. Only three sisters, the daughters of Minyas, are not doing that, and they are simply talking and telling stories. We see in book 4 the three stories that they tell. Out of these stories, one is the story of the sun god, how he falls in love with Leucothe, uh, and he rapes her, and this enrages Clyte. Clyte is the wife of the sun god Helios, and she's enraged, so she goes and tells Leucothe's father about this, and what does her father do? He buries her alive. That's what a sane father would do. Instead of getting justice for her daughter, he would bury her alive. And because the daughters of Minyas refused to worship Bacchus, they were turned into bats. That's what gods do. If someone doesn't worship them, you go and turn them into a certain animal, like a bat. Interesting. The misery of Cadmus family continues. Juno can't just let this slide that a member of Cadmus family was raped by Apollo. So instead of just punishing Apollo, she goes to hell, makes a deal with Hades, and he and then we see that Ino, the daughter of Cadmus, the last living daughter of Cadmus, is happily living with her husband and children, and her husband is cursed and is driven mad, and he starts thinking that his family is a pack of lions. So to defend himself, to save himself, he bangs the head of his child against the wall and he dies. That child is killed by his own father because he is now insane thanks to the mighty goddess Juno. And Cadmus and his wife Harmonia are pain stricken. They are, Ovid said it rightly that a man cannot be happy unless he reaches his grave. He cannot know if he will be happy or not, especially if gods are being wrathful. He then wishes to just be cleansed of all this, and he's turned into a snake, a serpent. He's turned into the creature that he killed to build his own kingdom. The cycle of life is this, if I must say it. In the later part of the same in of a book 4, we see Perseus, the great warrior who killed Medusa, the evil person with snake heads. Yeah, that person, that Gorgon. She was killed by Perseus, and we see how Poseidon, or we could call him Neptune, the god of ocean. He saw Medusa when she was a human. He saw her in the temple of Athena, and he liked her because she was beautiful. So he forced himself upon her and raped her. And when Medusa asked to be saved, goddess Athena appears, and what does she do? Instead of punishing Poseidon, she turns Medusa's hair into snakes. Medusa's hair were the most prized possession in her body. So she turned her into the ugliest thing. And Medusa's gaze after that could freeze anyone. And we see Perseus killing her. But what of Medusa? She was a normal girl, a worshipper of Athena. She was a believer of the just and kind goddess Athena. Why did she not save her? Why did she transform her into something that she didn't want to be? And her end was tragic as well. She was killed by Perseus. Now Perseus is roaming about, taking her head with him to conquer everything he desires and to win against his enemies. Is this what Medusa dreamt of someday? Obviously not. After reading 7 to 8 parts of Metamorphoses, I realized that gods don't ask for consent. Greek and Roman gods don't ask for consent. If they saw a woman, if they liked that woman, they would simply go and rape her. Is this what a person should be doing. We see that often in our society as well, the mindset of men regarding women's beauty. Most of us, I, some of us or most of us, I don't know how many of us say that or think this way. They think that a woman's beauty is her own doom. Is that our hubris? Is that a, for a matter of fact, be it a woman, be it a man, is beauty a person's hubris? How can it be? A person should know what consent means. A person should know what a boundary means and what respecting the person in front of them means. But they don't know that. The victims don't deserve it. Any person don't deserve such ruthlessness from anyone. And that's all for today. I'll see you in next video with some other book or probably the same one. Bye for now.